To extend our discussion and our thinking about metaphors and rapport, the metaphors are essential for rapport. Metaphors are a component of rapport. When you use a good metaphor, a strong metaphor, that allows for a shared, I really think what's being shared is an image or some kind of movie or something in the mind that is common, and you have a sense, you almost sense this at a deep, if you're a new code type person, you'll experience this as a deep unconscious signal that there is a rapport of images, a rapport of some kind of structure that has been conjured in both the sender and the receiver, and you're in sort of the same place. You are, in a way, sharing a common idea or a common image, some kind of symbol that is transmitted by the metaphor. So in my model of communication, metaphor, and then a lot of the subsets of metaphor-like things, metonymies, similes, etc., which we can go into at a later point, are very strong components of congruent, shared sense of the real, or shared intention. So when we talk about being in rapport, to be in rapport is to be in a state of some shared reality. There is a shared common theme. There's a shared common image. There's a shared common saying or a shared common theory. And the more those line up, the deeper our rapport is going to be. NLP, again, is I think, definitionally not a very strong discipline. It does not define its stuff very well. I'll give you a cautionary tale. I have this ashtray. I found this at one memorabilia store, one of those New York stores that sells little bits and pieces of the past. This is an ashtray. It's an ordinary ashtray from the Stork Club. The Stork Club, once upon a time, was one of the most attractive nightclub institutions where all the powerful, the people who made things happen, the combination of mobsters, governors, mayors, officials, union guys, anybody who was anybody in New York, I think back in the 40s and 50s, congregated at the Stork Club. The Stork Club. And here's their ashtray. I have no idea how many cigars that were being smoked by some of the most powerful people in their day, and the cigarettes by their dames got crunched out in this specific ashtray. No doubt many. The Stork Club no longer exists. That's what's funny. It is now one of these little corporate pocket parks somewhere up in Midtown in the 50s. And there's a plaque commemorating the fact that the Stork Club used to be there. And inside the Stork Club there was an even more exclusive inner sanctum called the Cub Room. So if you were really, really somebody, like, Walter Winchell, who was the kind of the, he was kind of the smash mouth radio of the day, Walter Winchell had a table in the Cub Room. So it wasn't just enough that you got into the Stork Club. That in itself was something. If they seated you at the Stork Club, you had to be somebody in that very informal system of power, which was the real system of power, how things really worked in the old days back here in the city, the days of Fiorello, LaGuardia, and before. Well, interestingly, the only thing that remains, besides that pocket park in the 50s with its little brass plaque, and my ashtray and maybe a few other ashtrays and some other memorabilia people have, this is all that remains, an ashtray. The Stork Club ashtray is all that's left of that place where thousands of the most powerful people, the richest people, the most celebrated people, the Humphrey Bogarts, the Lauren Bacalls, all went there. That was the place you had to go. And what remains? An ashtray. Okay? That's all that's left. There's a metaphor, right? There's a metaphor. There's a metaphor for transience. There's a metaphor for things that we assumed were going to be permanent, ways that we assumed the world was going to be organized, the way that power was going to be established, faded away, and it's gone. And all that remains is my little ceramic ashtray, store club. That's it. Probably Humphrey Bogart crunched out a cigarette in this. And all that there is a ceramic ashtray. That's a metaphor, and it's a cautionary tale. You know, things that you think were like well established and secure for the future, should they not be maintained, and should they not be kept up, and should they not be supported and developed and evolved, will fade away and be just reduced to nothing but a few little memories and shards. Entire families disappear like that. Once rich family. I don't know what became of the Medici, the greatest and most ruthlessly powerful patrons of the arts, the popes, the Medici popes. Are they Medici? I assume that they're Medici. I assume that Napoleon Bonaparte has distant descendants wandering around. Certainly it must be so. For all I know, Julius Caesar has distant relatives, descendants floating around. But I don't know if they are no more their history than that Stork Club ashtray is the Stork Club. You know, that's all that remains. So the cautionary tale and the powerful lesson is that, if we're going to go with that metaphor, is that we have to work very hard continuously to develop our skills, develop the art, develop the definitions, and develop the definition of rapport. I think rapport in many ways is being in metaphoric harmony and metaphoric synchrony and sharing metaphors, having a common sense of metaphor, a common taste. There's your good gustatory marker there. A common taste in metaphors. Metaphors and taste are very interestingly related, which suggests to me that there are sort of metaphors in the brain which are oriented around olfactory, gustatory markers. You know, that was in good taste. That was a sweet metaphor. You know, he spat that one out. He couldn't swallow that. So we're seeing that there's a very complex blending and interplay and network of rapport, metaphor, olfactory, gustatory predicates. And so we're going to work on metaphor quite a bit, because to get through to metaphor and really work out on metaphor is also to really get into rapport and work out on rapport and understand how the mind in rapport is a mind in metaphor. So this will go on. I think this should occupy us for a while. This is a very, very important pit stop for NLP.